Welcome back to AM Northwest. Our first guest wants you to rethink everything you know about money, ditching the restrictive rules and scarcity mindset. Here to help cultivate a healthier relationship with money, we welcome the author of You Don't Need a Budget, financial educator Dana Miranda. Good to have you with us. I love this idea so much because I've never been able to figure out a budget, honestly. So tell me with your first tip, budgeting doesn't work. What does that mean, and why does it work for you? Why that?
Yeah,
philosophy?
Well, it's exactly what you said. You know, so many people feel that way. I've never been able to figure out a budget.
Right.
But we're constantly told that that's the first thing that you need to do to get your money in order, to fulfill any financial goals that you're aiming for, that you need to make a budget, which is usually about restricting how you spend money in some way or making a plan for how you spend money. And what we found about it in research, not research that I've done, but what I found in the research is that what we know about budgeting looks a lot like what we know about dieting, which is that it's unsustainable. People are unable to stick to budgets because of the restriction. And it tends to add stress and shame to your money management more than it actually helps to reduce your stress, which is what a lot of people are looking for.
So then it causes people really to go off their diet or off their budget, right?
Exactly. Because of that unsustainability, because it's essentially painful to maintain, people don't stick to it.
Okay, so you say financial advice and education tends to boil down to 3 tactics. Tell me about those.
So what I see in what I call budget culture is in the way that we approach money is restriction, shame, and greed.
Yeah.
And restriction is that idea that I said. It's about restricting how you use money. It's about looking at, if you're not happy with your financial circumstances, finding some way to spend less, do less, be less kind of with your money. And the shame is just sort of built into that. If you don't feel like you're following the rules, you can't stick to a budget even though you're being told you should. The shame is just built into that, and you start to feel more shame than being able to actually go after financial goals when you're dealing with these rules. And so the greed is not necessarily because we're greedy people, but it's because we just focus on wealth hoarding and accumulation as kind of the goal of money management.
Right. But we have so much tied up in money. Our self-esteem is tied up in what we earn.
That's true, and it's a little too much. We kind of put too much focus on our ability to earn a living, quote unquote, to earn money, and then that kind of translates into the ways that we use money, right? If we want to have luxuries in life, we have to be able to work for it. And so that all kind of gets built in, and that's the kind of underlying culture of how we approach money.
Is money meant to be spent?
100%. That's really what it's for. We kind of have a lot of advice and rules that are about accumulating money, learning how to earn it and hold on to it as much as possible or make it grow. But really the idea of money is to be able to live the life that you want, and that requires spending it. So I think adjusting that mindset is really important.
Okay, so first of all though, then let's talk about how we can help ourselves, how we can get this better mindset. And it's got to be that you have to be aware of what you're spending.
That's definitely some place to start, and that's why a lot of people turn to a budget. Because putting numbers in that spreadsheet can help you become aware of what you're spending, but because of a lot of the ways that we teach personal finance or talk about money in the media, that budget turns into making a strict spending plan, restricting how you use money, and then shaming yourself when you don't stick to those rules. But really, you can just gain an awareness of how you're spending money in the same kind of ways that you kind of gain self-awareness or mindfulness in any other realm, which is just starting to be conscious of what you're doing, pay attention to how you're spending money, do things like keep a spending diary, but think about not just the dollars and cents, but what money is actually doing for you in your life. What are you getting out of it? What are the needs and wants that you're meeting?
Give me an example
with that money.
Like, how do you do that?
So I do reflect on kind of every couple of weeks. I reflect on how I'm using my money, and one of the things that comes up for me over and over is going to coffee with a friend or family member, going out to dinner. These are things that are really quickly restricted when you're concerned about getting your money under control with a budget. But when I look at those, when I ask myself, what's the most joyful thing I did with money this week? Those are always the first things that come up. So eliminating those and adding that kind of restriction to my life would really be kind of counter to that idea of using money to support the life you want, which is what you're really trying to do. It's not just about spending as little as possible and just getting those numbers right.
What would be the number one tip for people overall when it comes to enjoying their money?
I think,
and yet not going broke.
Exactly. So I recommend that people, rather than looking to financial experts and asking, what should I do with my money or what should I do next, ask, how do things work? So look for education so that you can empower yourself with understanding how our financial products and systems work, so then you can make those decisions that make sense for you rather than turning to someone else for some set of rules.
Is there one big challenge that you see your clients make that you realize, and they've realized maybe once they take this step, they feel a lot better about things? I mean, one step?
One of the big things I see people struggling with, and why a lot of people start a budget, is because they're concerned about debt payoff.
Yeah.
Because they have a lot of debt from a lot of different sources, as
and don't
most
we
people
all
do.
have a lot of debt, right?
And that's one of the biggest messages. Is what I hear from people is just that they are able to let go of the shame of holding on to that debt, because we just consider it to be a bad thing, and that it's something you have to get rid of as quickly as possible and use as little as possible. And that's really just another way of restricting how you use money and what you're able to spend on. But when you understand how debt products work and what your options are for repayment and relief and things, then you can make those work in your life and find a better balance without just being ashamed and trying to get rid of it as quickly as possible.
Wow. Okay. You have a book event. It's tonight at Annie Bloom's at 7 o'clock on Capitol Highway. We're going to put all the information for you on our website at ka2.com. Again, the title of the book is You Don't Need a Budget. Dana, thank you so much. This was great. Very informative. I feel much better.
Oh, good.
Much better. All right, we'll be right back with more AM Northwest. Don't go away.